So over a year ago, I started on a crazy 3D printing project where I wanted to create a larger than life version of one of my favorite comic book characters, Magneto. And if you didn't see those previous projects, I'll have them linked in the corner so that you can get caught up, but it involved me 3D printing so many different objects to create these different body parts that I could then weld together. But I ended up running into one massive challenge that's basically held me up until this point, and we're gonna get that resolved in today's video. And to give you a quick summary, I ended up taking a file that was created by Wicked 3D that created this beautiful Magneto statue that's floating in air, and I scaled it up using a software called Lubin 3D that is specifically designed for making 3D printable statues. So it easily allows you to slice those up into manageable parts that you can then print on any size 3D printer that you might be working with. And then using things like 3D glue or a soldering iron to weld your prints together. And as you can see, I ended up with all of these different body parts that primarily make up the arms and the lower half of the Magneto body. There is still a torso and a head that I still need to print, and I still need to figure out the base for this statue, which is all of what we're gonna be trying to sort out today. But the primary issue that was holding me up with this, and why I sort of put it on the back burner, is because it's floating in air, the statue. He's posed in a way that he's sort of supposed to be floating there. He has a base that he's attached to, but there's no way would be able to support a statue of this size and weight. And how we're actually gonna solve this is by using this 6-foot long metal pole that we're gonna shove through Magneto's body to help keep his body upright and figure out how we can get this mounted into the base of that statue. Now, I don't think the 3D printed base for this statue would even be able to fully support it with this pole inside of it. I think it would just end up tipping over. So we need something really heavy. Thankfully, yeah, I ended up getting this umbrella stand that we're gonna use. This is a 60-pound umbrella stand that should hopefully be enough to support that statue, and the pole should fit within that opening there. It perfectly fits inside the opening here of this umbrella stand, and then I can just tighten it into place. And the one big thing that I'm missing from this stack of body parts here is the upper torso for Magneto that's gonna fit on top of the waist and then hold the arms in place. So thankfully, I have a really huge 3D printer, the Elegoo Orange Storm Giga, to actually print this out on. Now, unfortunately, this did not go as smoothly as I was hoping it would, because I ended up running into more than a few print issues with printing this upper torso and things like layer shifting with the Giga, which I'm still testing out for them and trying to help sort out some of the issues. And I'm happy to say throughout this entire process, I was able to figure out a solution to this layer shifting issue that I was seeing with a bunch of these torsos. And yeah, I ended up printing more than a few of these torsos. Now, there were a variety of different issues that I ran into with this and then tried to get those resolved by further testing with the Giga. Again, this is sort of in a prototype phase at the moment that I'm playing around with the firmware. And thankfully, was able to get the layer shifting sorted, which was the primary issue that I was running into with a bunch of these prints, where things just shifted whenever I was pausing and trying to change the filament. Also, one issue that I ran into with this torso is I ended up dropping it here and crushed the head portion. Also, this whole thing, which was great about this, is I ended up using a function in Orca Slicer where you can add an object to the slicer, to the file that you're looking to print, and add it as a modifier, and then was able to add that as like a negative modifier there. So what it did was cut a hole into the torso for me where I needed that pole to go through. One thing that I was not aware of that now is a learning experience for me is that when it says it's a 1-inch diameter pole, yeah, they mean the inside of the pipe, not the outside. So thankfully, I ended up testing that out after I was able to print a few of these and ended up adjusting the files so that it actually fits into the opening properly, and it's a bit of a snug fit, but it fits. And my fourth attempt ended up being the perfect one. Again, I got the layer shifting all sorted by using a slicer that I've built directly in Orca Slicer for this, and it so far has prevented most of the layer shifts that I've been seeing with my prints now moving forward, which is fantastic on that massive 3D printer. And the opening here on the back properly fits the opening for that pipe. Ta-da! Oh, it's backwards. Did I mention it's larger than life? This thing is huge, absolutely massive. And even with all of the different parts that I printed, I still have even more 3D printing I need to do. And I mean, a lot more 3D printing, because now that I've got the torso, I still need to print the head, which I 3D printed on the Elegoo Neptune 4 Plus, which just turned out amazing. And I ended up printing that multiple times as well, because the scaling just seemed off. It seemed like it was too small, even though it was scaled appropriately to the rest of the body. So I reprinted it twice to get it to the size that I felt like it was the most appropriate for the body. I can't believe I'm picking up this base again because it's so heavy, but this just looks ugly. Oh my God, let me put this on the table. Yeah, this just looks ugly, and I don't want Magneto floating above this. I want it to be floating above some kind of cool looking display stand. But the original stand that it came on it's just like it's too much, it's too thin. So what I did was I took those files, modified them slightly, and then was able to use that as an upper base. And then I wanted still something to cover the top of this platform. So I ended up designing my own based on the original and printing that there on the Giga. Now, unfortunately, the first attempt, the filament was really old and just was not printing very well. So reprinted that again, and now it's looking a lot cleaner. But I think what we are gonna end up doing is adding a little bit of resin to this to help stiffen it up. And then for the upper base of the statue that's gonna actually connect to the legs, I ended up cutting that back up into Lubin 3D and printing those across a variety of different Elegoo Neptune 3D printers. I also want to say a big thank you to Elegoo for sponsoring today's video. They're the makers of the Elegoo Neptune 4, the Neptune 4 Plus, and the Neptune 4 Max. And I ended up using a bunch of the Elegoo Neptune 3 3D printers a year ago for the other body parts. And I couldn't do a Magneto statue without a Magneto helmet that I printed on the Elegoo Neptune 4 Plus. Also, I should mention almost this entire project was printed in Elegoo's filament that just prints amazing across any 3D printer that you might be working with and is super affordable. If you're interested in more information about any of Elegoo's products, you'll find links to those down below. You'll also see for the heads where I started with the original head sculpt, and it had a whole bunch of hair detail on it, which I really don't need because it's gonna be covered in a helmet. So I ended up smoothing out the head, and now it kind of just looks like an angry Benjamin Franklin. All right, now check this out. This is the 3D printed lower base of the statue, all assembled and together. I ended up having to put the leg in here. It wasn't gonna actually go together properly unless I put it in before finally welding everything together. Now, I still have some seams and gaps that I need to fill on this, but this is the lower half that's gonna be 3D printed, that's gonna be sitting on top of the umbrella stand. And there is actually a hole in the center of this where that pole is gonna go through and then end up connecting up to the upper torso of the statue. And there's a peg that was pre-printed on this leg as part of the original model that's inserted into this upper base portion here that's gonna help stabilize the lower half of the body. And now that we've got this assembled, we should be able to start getting the entire statue put together. All right, so let's add this 3D printed platform to help cover up the stand. Fingers crossed this all fits. Oh, that's perfect. Look how snug of a fit that is. I've got a little bit of room there, which is perfect because I need to be able to loosen this bolt so that I can now install the pole into this. So I've got a little bit of wiggle room with the pole, which is good because I can always tighten it down further afterwards. Also, I'm really happy to see that it's not bumping into the leg. As a design, it needs to go between both of the legs and around the rear end to get into the back of the body. And I actually think I'm gonna install the upper torso before putting in the waist, because in theory, I believe this should allow it to pinch the waist into place along with that upper leg. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little nervous that there's not enough room for the waist and the upper torso with this pole in place. Please fit. Oh no, oh no. Is this not gonna work? Oh, it does, it does, it does. Ooh, yeah, that's good. Check that out. This, obviously there's a little bit of a gap there that I'm gonna have to help close up, but the upper torso and the waist have come together. I just gotta figure out how to properly angle it, I think. Obviously, Magneto needs his other leg, so let's see if we can, how I can do, ooh, will that actually rest right there? Such a happy coincidence that this leg and that foot are bracing on the bottom of the base there and is helping support this upper torso there. I've added a little bit of hot glue just right here because I do want to be able to separate all of the major limbs and figure out a better way that I can get these things assembled and then take it apart if I need to move it around. All right, so this massive arm is gonna go right into this slot, and there's no way that it's just gonna sit there on its own. So I need to apply a whole bunch of hot glue to this joint. Yeah, I don't think that's going anywhere. That's on there pretty snugly. That's good. Thanks, bud. All right, more hot glue, and then let's get this last arm on. All right, the last few parts, we've got this upper chest piece here, and then we've got our angry Benjamin Franklin, and then we can't have a Magneto without Magneto's help. Now, this is what I'm talking about. This thing is epically large. I am so happy with how this is turning out, and I can't believe I didn't get this going until now, a year after I started this project, and it's just looking incredible. I'm so happy it actually fit in this room. I was really nervous that my ceilings weren't gonna be tall enough to support this statue. I still need to figure out a cape for this, and I've got a whole lot of patching and repairing and welding of different joints on the statue, but so far it is looking incredible. And it does feel like it's missing something, and I have the perfect idea for an accessory to go with the base of this statue. So I'm gonna jump into Shaper 3D on my iPad and design an Xavier school sign, and not just any Xavier sign, I need one that's battle damaged. So I took this into Nomad Sculpt and just absolutely destroyed it. And then it was a matter of getting it printed, and of course I had to use that massive Elegant Orange Storm Giga. So what's really crazy about all this is I ended up printing 3 different versions of this sign to try and get the size just right. The first attempt was what I thought was gonna be the perfect size. This is just way too small. It looks good on a wall, like as a decorative art piece, but not for this. And then I printed an absolutely huge one, which I think I wanna reprint for my studio here because unfortunately this shifted. I could try to repair it, but I'm probably just gonna try and reprint it all together. And while this one looks pretty cool, it is just, it's too large. It's too large for this. So then I printed one in between those two, and I think this is the perfect size option for this statue. And it helps covers up some of the jankiness of the base there. I also want to try and figure out how to incorporate it and better fit it into the overall aesthetic and design of the base here. So it's not just sitting on the ground, but I'll figure that out separately. And the statue is 90 inches tall. That is just over 7.5 feet in height. That is just insane. And I'm so friggin' happy with how amazing this project is turning out. There is still a ton of work left to do on this before I can really say it's completed. I just can't get over how big this statue is and how it's actually now standing up and on display in my studio. Now, I still have a lot more work that I need to do on this, and primarily I'm trying to figure out how I want to get the limbs so that they're secured on there, but I can still take them on and off. I'm thinking about ordering some really high-powered magnets and kind of welding those into the joints so that I can take those on and off when needed. And I still am debating on if I want to actually paint this or leave it as a raw 3D print. So let me know what you all think in the comments, if I should leave it as is or finish it. I'm kind of leaning towards finishing it, and it's going to be a lot more work in terms of filling up the seams and gaps and holes that I've caused from dropping this numerous times, but I think it could look absolutely amazing here. Also, I need to figure out what I'm gonna do for the cape in the back. I don't know, but we'll figure that all out. But what I do know is that my Patreon supporters are absolutely amazing. I want to say a big thank you to all of your support for me making projects like this and other crazy videos. And if you're interested in things like my 3D printer settings, which I have to apologize to my Patreon members because I have been late on getting some updates to you, which should be there now today, which I'm excited about, including my Giga profile and a bunch of profile updates for the Neptune 3D printers. This is such a crazy dream project for me, and I'm so happy that I was able to actually get this sorted and standing here. Hey, I want to say thanks so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye now.